The Basque Country straddles the border between southwest France and northeast Spain. But except for their passports, the Basques are neither French nor Spanish. They're Basque. They speak the oldest European language still spoken, so old that no one can tell where it came from. We don't even know where the Basques came from. Scientific tests indicate that the Basques have a different bloodline than their neighbors in Spain and France. They also have a distinct and interesting culture, and they do all they can to keep their traditions alive. The Basques have lived on the Iberian Peninsula for thousands of years. But the two most important historic influences on Spain, a 300-year colonization by the ancient Romans and a 700-year occupation by the Moors, were hardly noticed by the Basques. The Basques lived in small, isolated villages and governed with a democracy in which the residents of a house voted as a unit rather than as individuals. That sense of family group has been central to their history. There are 4 Basque provinces in Spain and 3 just across the border in France. These days, the 2 most interesting cities for a tourist are San Sebastian and Bilbao. Since medieval times, Bilbao has been an important trading port. At first, the city shipped wool from the sheep farms of northern Spain. During the 1800s, iron mining became important, and the city evolved into an industrial center for steel mills, shipbuilding, and chemical production. It was a commercial city and clearly not a destination for tourists. But that has completely changed. Today, Bilbao is Spain's 4th largest city and a major tourist attraction. For many travelers, the standard European tour, usually limited to London, Paris, and Rome, now includes Bilbao. The change was the result of imaginative urban planning and the belief that a single building could be the catalyst for the rebirth of an entire community. Because of its size, the Guggenheim Museum in New York can only present 5% of its collection at any one time. Yet the traditional model for a museum calls for it to constantly make new acquisitions, which just leads to more art in the storerooms. During the late 1980s, the board of directors of the Guggenheim Museum decided to continue its acquisition activities, but at the same time look for new sites to present their collection. They already had one in Venice, and they opened 2 new ones in New York City and one in Berlin. In 1991, they were negotiating with Salzburg, Austria, when the Basque government began making their pitch. And the Basque had a couple of good points. Salzburg already had a major international music festival, and hundreds of thousands of tourists came there every year. A Guggenheim Museum in Salzburg would just add more whipped cream to their cake. A Guggenheim Museum here could rejuvenate an entire city. The logic and the opportunity were too powerful for the Guggenheim to resist. The old shipyards became the site for the new museum, with its titanium shell undulating in the wind and changing color from blue to red to gold throughout the day and night. Jeff Koons' flower-covered puppy welcomes visitors to the building, inviting them to loosen up for what's coming. About 2 hours before we got here, they decided to change the flowers on the puppy, so I had to show it to you in a postcard. But you get the idea. Fortunately, everything on the inside is ready for viewing. Our guide is Susana Garcia.
In my tours, I usually like starting here, Andy Warhol, because I think this is quite different. This is not the Andy Warhol we were used to. I mean, this is what he was doing in the 50s. He was a graphic designer, and he was designing those shoes, you see. But from here, I can see the evolution he's going to have, because I can see the glamour already, and he's going to be obsessed with glamour. I can see the bright colors. I can imagine his assistants helping him to paint, to color, because he had what he called his coloring parties. And as he said, he wanted to be a sort of machine. He wanted to work in every media, cinema, photograph, painting. fashion, music, everything. He thought that everything could be art, and art could become common.